All right, welcome back to D3 Glory Days. A returning guest, a now newly minted Olympic Trials qualifier, 213 marathoner, Ethan Gregg. Ethan, welcome back to D3 Glory Days.
Thank you so much for having me. It feels nice being back on the podcast.
Yeah, we were just talking about when probably the last time we had you on, and it might have been after your cross country race. It could have been in track. We're not fully sure, but it's been a bit, regardless of when it was, it's been a bit. So looking forward to catching up with you and hearing, your transition from lacrosse to the Hansons-Brooks pro team. But most importantly, and why you're here today, let's hear about the OTQ 213 in Houston. I guess to get us started, was that the goal, like that 213, or what did you have in mind with training? Like, where did you see yourself in terms of fitness headed into Houston?
Definitely thought that 213 was in the cards. Um, Going into the training block, it was I was doing the entire block with my teammate Awet Baraki, who went D2 Adams State national champ, insane runner. Um, But we both went in being like, "Man, we should talk to coach, like, we both think we can run 210, 211, something like that," and, we went into, like, our first meeting about the entire build with him like that. Um, but yeah, Kevin and Keith sat us down, they're like, "We're not trying to set the world on fire right now. We're just trying to get a building block towards what eventually can be, a 210, 209, 208 guy, you know?" Um, so they said, "We're training at 5:06 pace. That's 214, and that's the plan we're going to stick to." And so we just, trusted that plan, trusted that process. And I'm pretty sure I split damn near pretty even splits all the way. Um, so yeah, I think I ran right up to where my fitness level was. I don't know if there's anything I could have done differently to run faster. But yeah, this is just more of the first marathon with the Hansons is always going to be, let's get one on the board and let's have a positive experience with the marathon. And let's make sure you don't burn the bridge with that relationship with that distance. Um, because some guys uh, go out and they try to, yeah, do something pretty huge, maybe above what they probably could do at that time, and then they're scared for the next few years to even attempt the next one. So I'm glad to get one on the board and keep progressing.
Yeah, it's one of those guys who did that and then was really scared of the marathon for a few years. I think you probably made the right choice. But even zooming out a little bit further, talk about the decision to choose Houston. I mean, there were a couple other races round about that time frame. You had Marathon Project, CIM. So what was it about Houston? Whose idea was it to go to Houston? And like, were you fully on board with that?
Yeah, I was fully on board with it. I think there's a few aspects to it. One, Houston is just an all around fast course. But more importantly, it's still a pretty big race in terms of like, I think it's a gold level race. Great guys show up to it. Zuhair Talbi ran 205. But it still felt like a more low key race. So it didn't really feel like, oh man, I'm going into this world major. I'm lining up against a sea of guys that are just incredible talents. It was like maybe, I don't know, not even, or I know exactly. The pro field was only 8 guys, I think. So it felt very low key. It felt like just more like a hard long run with my teammate Owet. But yeah, the pressure wasn't really on the marathoners. I felt like it was more on the half marathon. So it's kind of more I could focus on just getting into a rhythm, um, and not being like, oh shit, this is Boston. This is huge, or it's not like, yeah, it's not a huge world major, but it's still big enough to feel like you're doing something. I don't know if that makes sense, but into my head.
Yeah, and you still get that experience of, like, being on the bus, shuttle to the start, police escort kinda thing. You're surrounded by all these great athletes in the warm-up area, and so even though the field is a little low key, in the marathon at least, you still have got, like, the big race experience, you think?
Oh, definitely. And also, like, Houston does a great job of, like, really taking care of you. Like, the first thing that happened after I crossed the line is each elite racer had one volunteer to, like, if they needed to carry you into the hotel to where like all the massage tables were. I forgot his name was Igor. I think I my guy's name was Igor. He helped me all the way to, I was like limping, pulled my hamstring a little bit, my heel's a little jacked up. But yeah, he helped me there, so it's pretty nice to like have one individual person for one runner.
You've had some pro races under your belt, but I think, having talked to you during your college career, watching the way you raced and your mileage to the marathon just kind of feel a bit more natural to you. Does it feel like it wasn't something that was like this huge hurdle you had to climb? Like I feel like you're built for the marathon.
Definitely. I'd say the training, especially the last 2 years at lacrosse, was with the intention of the marathon. And that includes, keeping that volume in college at the 100, 110 miles a week, as well as getting in those long reps at marathon pace. Even in college, like I remember doing tempo runs at the 5:05 pace, five flat pace with my coach on the bike, and I'm like, I think I can do this for like a marathon. He's like, yeah, you better be able to. Like, yeah. So that's always been the long term goal, and it really felt the entire build, 12-week build. It felt the most natural, most like in the pocket training I've ever had. Um, Also the most strenuous and most like most I had to give towards a build. And I peaked out at 125 miles a week, and that didn't really feel like a big ask. And I'm grateful because I have a super durable body outside of the injury I had that ended my college career. Um, but yeah, yeah, it feels very natural, and I feel right at home.
So you mentioned already how consistent your splits were in the race, and I looked at your Strava and I was like, "Damn, he ran that absolutely perfectly, absolutely nailed it." Well, so I guess my question is, kind of how did the reality of the race stack up to your expectation? Was there anything out there that kind of surprised you, or did it really feel like you were pretty in the pocket the whole way?
Yeah, I feel like I definitely, for years I've had like the narrative of like everyone telling me like, "Oh man, once you hit mile 20, that's when like there's nothing stopping mile 20, and that last 10K, no matter what you do, is going to be a death march." And so like in the back of my mind the entire race, I was waiting for that. I was like, "Okay, it's mile 20. When's it going to hit?" And then mile 21 came, and I'm like, "Okay, this sucks, but I can hold this." And then it got harder and harder, but I never hit a point where I'm like, I can't go. I can't do this. So I think yeah, just the mental barrier of, yeah, just overall the distance in general.
Curious if anything surprised you or if your sensations, were pretty expected the whole way. And
Yeah,
also, I'm not sure if the last 10K rule still applies in the super shoe era. I think the marathon is just like kind of easy now.
yes. Yeah. Um Everything else, I'm gonna bring it back to my coaches and teammates a little bit, but everything did stack up to what I was expecting, mostly because I'm surrounded by, I mean, biased, but the best marathon team in the nation. I'm surrounded by JP Flavin, who just ran 2:15 or 2 hours 9 minutes, uh, 2:09 in the marathon. Zach Panning, who's ran 2:09. He's been to Worlds, gone to Budapest. I think he was top 10 there. As well as like just a fresh group of guys that are all like 61-minute half marathoners, like that understand the distance and understand what it takes. And every run, I'm just trying to absorb everything I can from them and pretty much all the advice, to where nothing was up for like interpretation. I kind of knew exactly what was coming, and that's because of my teammates and my coaches.
Yeah, speaking with your training, you also seem to be racing maybe a little bit less than the college scene. Do you think that's kind of helped you kind of prepare and give your full effort to each race now that like you have conference and then it's regionals and you got nationals, like you can actually focus on each race individually?
Yeah, definitely. And kind of on the pro scene, you're a little more fortunate because you can kind of pick and choose where you want to show off your fitness. Where in college, you don't get that. You have to race because either your team needs to for the points, whether it's cross country or track, um, or it's just because that's what's expected to race every 2 weeks. So yeah, it's a privilege to be able to have that much time in between races and yeah, show what you're capable of.
Curious when you crossed the line, seeing 2:13 on the clock, like, what was your initial reaction? What was your feeling? Like, it feels like, was it a check off the list, or how did you feel, after you crossed the line?
It was a very good feeling. Um, I didn't feel like I did this huge monumental thing. I think it was more just a reassurance that yeah, I wasn't bullshitting myself or my coaches what weren't bullshitting me that like yeah, you're gonna be a damn good road runner. It was more like okay, yes, I can do this and let's see how far I can go from here because I think yeah, that was just the beginning.
I always found the finish line of marathons to be like a hugely emotional place. Like I feel like whether it went well or went poorly, I'd finish a race and just like be kind of overcome with emotion because it's not just a really hard 2 hours, but it's, you spend months kind of building up to this one event, even if you're racing outside of it too. Did you encounter that at all?
Yeah, I mean, I cried and I cried a lot after. Um,
I
not
cried too after every marathon. I would just like burst into tears.
every single. I feel like I mean, going back to it, I feel like this is a build where I poured everything I could into it. It was yeah, big deal. I think I could name a few reasons why like it's a big deal. I feel like the USA's, the trials, I feel like that's evaded me the past few years in college. Um, I felt like I was always capable of being on the line with the USA's top guys, um, even when I was at the Division 3 level, and that was more of just again just a reassurance of like, yeah, dude, of course you can do that. You know what you're capable of. As also my grandma was able to see me race for the first time in a professional uniform in a professional setting, um, and that was just really cool for her to see. And um, yeah, my whole family was there. My wife was there. Um, yeah, just all around. I mean, who knows how many times you get to qualify for the Olympic trials and be healthy doing it. That's another thing I think I was also super grateful for is to be able to get to a start line completely healthy is incredibly rare, and to not take that for granted was also huge for me.
It's a great topic to bring up, and we're going to jump back, a few years since you brought up injury and, mentioned we didn't really get to speak to you once you got hurt your senior year of track. Remember your Instagram post? I think you DM'd us or something, a stress fracture taking you out of the entirety of the outdoor season. What's emotion, you're a national champion heading into your final senior year. Like, what emotions went through for you individually, but also as a team? Because I know how important lacrosse was to you.
Yeah, yeah, it was a very uh very very hard decision to be able to pull the plug. Um and if I didn't have this career in mind, it would have been an easy decision is run until I broke. And I think that's what happened. Um and there was a lot of guilt associated with it because I was the leader on the team. I was the guy that guys looked to. And I was the guy that everyone on the team relied on in terms of not just points, but team morale, um, all aspects, I believe. Um, and I was only met with understanding and love when I sat the entire distance squad down, at least in the locker room, and I gave them my rationale because I thought I owed it to them. But all of them were even confused why I was even trying to explain why I should. They're like, dude,
Yeah,
we
you're hurt,
understand,
man.
right? We love you. We understand. We know what you want to do. And yeah, it was just really hard because, I mean, obviously, it feels fucking awesome to win national titles with your friends, and that's like again, that's a feel like I feel I'm not shitting you. I have like goosebumps thinking about it right now. Just yeah, it's just yeah, more than anything, it's just having that experience more than having the trophy or anything. Just doing it for each other.
And, you kind of mentioned making that decision with your long-term plans in mind, but I also imagine it was hard to lose that season, especially as a D3 athlete. You want to build your resume to be more attractive to post-collegiate coaches. And so was that a time of stress where you were kind of wondering like, man, I'm kind of losing this last opportunity to prove myself before I try to launch into this new career?
100%. Um, and like the year leading up, I was like, okay, this is gonna be like you had a solid senior year. You have like this has to be your breakout year. Like this is the year where you go to BU and you run 13:20. This is the year where you go out to California, you run 27:50, and you run all these crazy ass times, and you get looked at all the big brands, and maybe one of them takes a leap on you, and so all that anxiety and like, "Oh, shit, it's all over. No team, no on-sponsored team's even gonna wanna take a look at me." Um, but within the entire season, I was in contact with Kevin and Keith early throughout the spring, um, and I made a phone call to Kevin, like, very shortly after I made the decision to shut it down with him. In the back of my mind, I was fully expecting to be like, we can't, we got to move on because you're not running." And one of the first things he said was, "This does not impact uh, my want of you or my ability to keep recruiting you." Um, and that felt very good. Um, but yeah, that mostly is a lot of anxiety and be like, "Ah, shit, my entire dream's over because I didn't get to put all those times on a piece of paper to show these brands and these teams."
That's gotta feel good though to have a coach like say that to you, and I'm sure that maybe it was part of the reason you stuck with them. But does that give you just an extra motivation to run even harder for these guys because they didn't give up on you and they did give you this opportunity?
100%. I think even if I did have my breakout, if even if I had a perfect season, I went out to all those meets and I ran crazy fast times. Um, in my heart, I feel like I still would have ended up in Michigan with the Hansons. Um, number one, because I think who they are as people, um, more than anything, they have an extreme passion for um, developing their athletes more than anything. They just don't want to pick the top of the end of the spear of the NCAA and plop them right in and have instant success. They want to build you into the runner that you're going to become at the trials. That's where they want you to have your breakout race, is not when they recruit you, but in 4 years when it matters. And so their long term process is part of the reason I'm with them. Is part of the reason I chose them.
Two-part question. One, like, how did it feel when that contract was, either landed in your inbox or slid across the table to you? Like, walk us through the emotions of kind of signing your first pro contract. And then additionally, I mean, it required a move, right? And you've got other stuff going on in your life, you're married, whatever. So then talk about kind of the logistics of being like, okay, it's time to make a new place that I don't know well home and getting out there and kind of getting settled in.
Yeah. Um, so funny story is when I got my hands on the contract, the first person I sat down with was Nodrati, and kind of went over it. And so that was just really, I want you to know that that was also a very cool experience for you to go through the whole thing with me. Um,
Oh, I had a great time too. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, it was like ever since I was a sophomore in college, I was like, pro contract, that'd be pretty cool. And to be able to have one physically in front of me, like flipping through the pages, looking at numbers and dollar signs, even though the dollar signs are not why we're doing this. I'm like, oh, this is pretty fucking sweet to be looking at. Yeah. Um, and then yeah, ultimately at the time when I was in Boulder talking with you, I then was based in Phoenix, where my now wife was doing her PT clinicals. So went back to Phoenix to finish out the summer, trained in like 100+ degree weather every day. And then yeah, moved down to Michigan, and it was a pretty it was a pretty rough transition. It was the first time away from Wisconsin, away from lacrosse, which is also my hometown.
So
Um,
far from Wisconsin.
yeah, so far it's virtually that, like I was just telling Stu, it's like this, it's literally, it's like a copy and paste. It looks exactly the same. Um, but yeah, just not like I was a mile away from my parents' house when I was on campus, and I was like not that short of a drive away from both my brothers. So yeah, that was very very hard, and everyone knows how hard distance in a relationship is. Um, Especially when we're both chasing something we both want. My wife was, working on becoming a physical therapist, a doctor, something just crazy, and very hard to do. So she actually continued, and when I moved to Michigan, she moved to Colorado Springs, so even further away. Um, well, Woodland Park, so it's even further than Colorado Springs. She was really up there. Um, And that was, yeah, it's just very, very hard being away from your person and your family, and also just all the cliches of like, yeah, it's hard to move to a new place where you don't know anyone, as well as on top of everything, you also have to physically make it work with your body with adjusting to a new training philosophy. And I think that took, the largest. I think honestly, I think it took up until a few months ago for me to fully adjust.
I'm curious about that like first year with them training under a new system, coming back from an injury. I'm sure you have to give yourself grace to come back from an injury, but then you're in a new system. It's probably difficult. Were there any times when you're like, "What the hell?" Like banging your head? Because I think I saw some of your results. Everything looked fine, but maybe not like up to what you were hoping for.
Yeah, I think I definitely in my brain was like, "Okay, dude, you signed a pro contract. Now go light the world on fire. Go." Like I feel like in my head I was thinking like I might have like a yard and a goose type transition to the professional scene, where it's like he's coming out and instantly he was running, 3:43 in the mile and making Olympic teams, all that. And I like, part of me was like, hey, that might happen with me. Um, but the truth is I'm a Division III athlete, and there, yeah, so there's a more of a developmental curve with that. And so first few races, I think I definitely we hopped into racing pretty quick. Not because, like, we thought I was ready, but it was more of an experience thing, where my coaches just wanted me to get my feet wet, so I went to TC 10 mile, I bombed. I I went to Cow Harbor 10K, bombed, so on and so forth. A few more races, went to US Club Cross. I was like, "Hey, man, it's Club Cross, maybe I'll do good." Bombed. It was all it was, very rough, and like you said, you'd think that there'd be a grace period. I did not allow myself a grace period, which was probably why I kept digging myself in a further hole of like, holy fuck, this isn't working. I I suck. I absolutely suck. How am I a pro runner? I don't deserve a contract. Like, like my coaches are gonna want to get rid of me at the end of the year. All these things. Um, And I don't know if there's gonna be someone listening to this that also is not giving themselves grace when in their comeback from injury. Um, and the message is like, slow down. You're gonna be fine. You just got to take time and realize that you're chipping away day by day, rather than trying to take on this huge monumental like thing. I don't really know.
And I mean, getting the 213 on the board last weekend has got to be kind of the validation that you were seeking. That, you know, sure, you bombed some races, but the marathon. I think when you decide to be a marathoner, to some extent, all the other race distances kind of lose a little bit of meaning because they're not the marathon. And now that you've had success in that arena, does that do anything to kind of quiet those fears that you were starting to develop a little bit?
Definitely, and I do definitely understand what you just said of like all the other races almost feel like less superior. Um, or less important. When I know that's not the truth because I still want to perform well in the 10K distances, 10-mile distance, like all the obscure road race distances. I still want to perform at the highest level I can there. But yeah, I was just going back to the validation that like, yeah, that is my distance and this is where I'm going to be great. Um, it made all the entire, entire year of getting my ass kicked in races and in training worth it to know that this is the ultimate goal of my team. Like we are a marathoning team. We do have guys like we have sub 28 10K guys on the squad right now that are going to run the 10 in a few months and going to crush it. Um but their ultimate that what Kevin and Keith want is they want you to get to the trials, the entire team to get to the trials, and they want each of us to have a shot at that team.
You've kind of pieced together some like lessons you've learned so far from the injury and going pro, but now that you have the 213 and you've qualified, like, is there anything you can sum up of like what you've learned maybe about yourself as a runner through this journey the past few years?
Yeah. Another corny answer, but that there's always going to be more in the tank. Um, I think, especially since the injury, like I've had, and I feel like also a lot of other people have like a mentality of like, I'm just not going to be the same ever since my injury. I'm just not going to get back to that point where I was before the injury, and they put themselves in a like a BC era of like their prime or my prime versus where they are today, where it's like I've ultimately decided that's how losers think. Um, and yeah, just again being able to realize that I've trained physically the hardest I have in the past year than I have in the past 5 years I did in college, and I think that was because of the first year I had here of just just having my teeth kicked in and day out. Um, Whereas, like, I don't know if I should go this hard in practice, or I don't know if I can hit these certain paces in practice because there's days where they're having us run, whatever. I wouldn't touch certain paces like under 5 minute pace in college for an entire season. Where now I'm repping out 4:30s or something for an entire session. Um, yeah, just the ability to ask for more for myself, I'd say.
I'm wondering if you can kind of, describe the Hansons a little further. I know a lot of people are always curious about what professional running looks like, and I think the Hanson system is kind of unique because they do have the Zach Pannings of the world, but there's also, the developmental side of it, and also they provide a lot of things that other groups and sponsors don't provide. I imagine maybe you're living in like Hanson's housing. A lot of you guys I know work at the shop, and so kind of talk about the structure of your life and how that's kind of intertwined with the Hanson's model.
Yeah, definitely. The entire Hanson's model is structured around my day, which is running. My entire life right now is structured around running. Not that it wasn't in college; it completely was by my choice.
You had school, I thought, there, Ethan. Didn't you have school?
Fuck no.
Not here to play school.
I went to UW lacrosse. Um, But yeah, I mean, me and my wife, we live in one of the Hansons houses. I think they have like 5 or 6 houses, um, where we don't have to pay for rent, which is huge weight off my back. I mean, we just kinda get to I mean, we pay utilities and rent. Other than that, I work part-time at the Hansons running shops. They have 4 locations. I work at 3 of them. I work up to 25 hours a week, um, so that my main focus can be my running, because some days I can be on my feet all day at a shift depending on how busy, uh, the store can be. Um, but yeah, also, Hanson's is in a very I feel like now a much more rare situation compared to other teams because we are a fully funded team backed by a shoe brand. Um, and that is very cool because we're able to afford like right now the entire team's down in Florida training. I'm not because I'm on break, but they're able to fund full training camps down in warm weather. As well as kind of going back, they also pool in their own money from the shops themselves. So it's kind of that's why it's Hansons-Brooks, not just Hansons or just Brooks Distance Project. Um, but yeah, I'm able to structure my entire day. Uh, I wake up in the morning. We have practice at 7:25 to 8 a.m. every day. I go to work by 11. I come back and I run, and I go to bed. That's kind of that's the entire model, and that's the entire reason I'm here to have a pretty routine life and maybe at times pretty boring. Um, but it's for yeah, the ultimate goal.
So as you sit here on break, your teammates are gone. I'm sure you're starting to kind of dream and think of ahead. Do you have an idea of where your ceiling's at, or like how does this 213 change the way your trajectory or your plan, so to speak, looks like now?
Um, I think my trajectory or plan is gonna remain the same. I think I mean ever since early in college I was like I'm gonna be a good marathoner. Um and again that was just the 213 was a good reassurance and knowing that I'm gonna keep developing um through the training and through, upping the mileage. I don't really see myself having a ceiling. I think the way that we train, um, and the way that Kevin and Keith coach and develop us, I think every marathon I do isn't going to be this huge monumental thing where it's like, okay, if I run Chicago this fall, okay, I run 211, 210, like that doesn't move the needle on like US marathoning, or that doesn't put anyone on notice. Okay, a few months later, I'll go and run Boston. Maybe I run 209, 208, and I'll keep chipping away until that Olympic trials, where that's where the ultimate goal of, yeah. So yeah, time wise, I don't know what I can run. I think I can run really fast. Um, but yeah, yeah.
Need someone to take down Noah's time, 20909. We just need to get it off the record books here.
Marathon project. You would have won the marathon project this year.
Yeah, instead I got to finish second 5 years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of one of my last questions is, you kind of shouted out JP and Zach, and so looking back to college, like you were like the guy, right? You were the team leader, and now you're kind of slotting in as a newer guy with some more seasoned pros around you to learn from, and I'm curious how that role suits you, where you're coming in as more of like the apprentice than the expert. Like I think sometimes guys struggle with that. Have you found it to be kind of a useful tool, or yeah, how does it sit with you?
It feels it feels really good kind of being in the little brother role sort of, the mentee to the mentor. Um, cause for 5 years, yeah, I was the guy that guys were trying to talk to and learn from, um, and as well as like me being being a mentor because I feel like I was in a leadership figure since sophomore year of college. Um, so it's been kind of I really enjoyed having that role in college because I really think it suits who I am as a person. I think it's my strength. Like I think my strengths as a human is being able to connect and help you find your potential. Um, I the number one thing I think I'm going to be proud of in college is how I've helped develop the culture of the team and where I got it, or where I not where I got it, where I helped elevate it to. Um, but now, being more in the back seat and being able to tap Zach and JP on the shoulders and being like, "How do you do this? How do you do that?" Kind of being like yeah, a little annoying brother sometimes. Um, it's nice. It kind of feels like there's not a lot of pressure with it because yeah, I did have a entire program kind of looking up to me, and that's a lot of pressure at times, and I definitely felt that. And with a lot of that times, I also felt like I was letting a lot of guys down at times because of all the pressure I put on myself to be the best leader I can. Um, and not to say I'm in some sort of leadership role now, but I'm not, and that's kind of nice because it's just some pressure taken off. But yeah, it's very nice having guys to look up to and talk to. Um, and yeah, because they're going to be some of America's best distance runners in the next few years. I mean, Zach hasn't been able to show it. Zach's a guy that can run 205. Um, he's just been a little banged up a little bit.
You know, having followed your college career, you've had the highs, you've had the lows, and then I'm curious because you won your individual national championship when lacrosse lost by 1, and then you graduate and then they win. But you were there to watch. So I'm curious, like, you kind of mentioned how you looked at the program and you were a big inspiration for a lot of those guys. But from your standpoint, watching them win after you graduated, like, what was that like?
It was very cool. There was definitely a selfish part of me that was like, it'd be super cool to be part of the squad right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
I'm not gonna like that was one of my first emotions of like, damn, I really that would feel really cool to be a part of right now. And taking a step back, I also was like, this isn't my story. Um, this is their story, and this is last year what happened to them. That was those younger guys. That was the catalyst to what they are now, and that felt really cool. Um, and for them, it's incredibly hard to win a national title, and to do it twice is, we're talking dynasty level stuff. And yeah, being able to see those guys, I remember seeing it was like 5K into the race. I remember seeing Aiden, both the Mathai twins, Jaden's Wiki, who's like a miler, and Joey Sullivan. They're all controlling the race at a national meet, and that was like a really full circle moment for me because I remember when those guys walked into the program having no idea what they were going to be capable of, and yeah, it was really cool to see what they did.
Are we about to see a UW lacrosse to Hansons-Brooks pipeline start developing here in the next year or so?
I would like to see that. We need the Mathis to become need the Mathis to up the mileage a little more. Maybe get a little more durable. Yeah. I could see it. I could see it.
Yeah, so you said you topped out at 125. What's like a normal what were you hitting consistently for folks that maybe don't follow you on Strava?
Yeah. So for the 12-week build, I averaged around 125.
Mm.
Obviously I did it like I went 90, 115, 125, and then kept it there until like 2 weeks before I brought it down. Um, but what's cool, um, at least to me, a lot of arguments, philosophies of like mileage isn't everything. Mileage doesn't make you better. My opinion is running more makes you better at running. and that's what the Hansons believe, and it's the truth. um, Brian Sell, Olympian, ran 160 miles a week. I mean, that's
And
just
worked at Home
one.
Depot. He was working at Home Depot at the time. Yeah.
And he worked at home. He worked. My neighbor worked with him at Home Depot, so I'm like, oh no shit, that's awesome. But yeah, I'm excited to keep like I want to be a guy that's clipping those 140 to 160 mile weeks, um, and for it to not feel like it's taking away a piece of my soul while I'm doing it. I think my body's going to be capable of that without feeling like I'm reaching for the sun.
It's such a simple philosophy. You just got to run more to get better at running. You got to run to get better.
It's very simple, and yeah, people mix it up a lot.
Yeah.
Probably last question for me. I know Stu's got a Bears game to get to here shortly, but we kind of talked about Strava, and that got me thinking about kind of the content creation side of pro running. Like performance is only part of being a sponsored runner these days. So I guess what kind of pressure do you feel to like keep up on socials and keep up on YouTube? Like, do you enjoy doing that stuff, or are you kind of doing it because it's good practice in your position?
It is good practice in my position, and there is contractual stuff that involve in certain amount of Instagram posts, certain amount of this or certain amount of yeah, Instagram posts, Instagram stories. There is a quote unquote quota to reach that from the brand. Um I genuinely enjoy creating videos. I'm just not consistent at it. And I think in order to reach the next level of like, okay, I want to be known as a runner, but I also want to inspire people beyond just my performances, and that's how I communicate with people. And I have a few YouTube videos out. I loved making those. Um, I feel like I can put part of my personality into how I edit and how I, clip together those videos. And I mean, bringing it back to UWL, I've had such, I felt like I was mentored by the math eyes in that front, where it's like math eyes kind of showed me it's not corny to make YouTube videos and have fun and show yourself having fun with your friends doing it. Um, but yeah, no like pressure to be able to. It's I want to pump out content, but sometimes I know there's runners that influence, and then there's influencers that run, and pro runners, they got to keep running at the front burner. So I uh, understand that thought process as well.
What does your schedule look like for the rest of 2026? I mean, you knocked out the marathon early on. Where are we gonna see you here the rest of the year?
Um,
If
I'm
you can
hoping
say.
I'm hoping to convince my coach to let me run the 25K champs. It's in Grand Rapids, so close to home. Um, Seems like a fun race. I raced the 10K there before the 25K, so I was able to see Casey Klinger, who's also a Brooks athlete, just crush it. Um, I think I could PR on the half marathon while doing that, so that'd be also pretty fun. Um, but the ultimate goal for the rest of 2026 is stay healthy and then ultimately run Chicago in October.
Awesome. Well, Ethan, so great catching up with you. Congrats on your OTQ. Excited to see where you take things from here. And yeah, we'll be cheering you on.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.